Hello, and welcome to the Irish Aesthete. Today, I want to talk to you about two buildings which, although they're separated by quite a distance, bear remarkable similarities to one another. And this raises all sorts of curious questions, some of which will probably never be answered. Architectural history in Ireland, particularly at any date before the late 18th century when extant records start to become more substantial, is often a bit like doing a jigsaw puzzle. You've got the various pieces of information, but you're not sure how they all fit together. In addition, this can on occasion be like doing a jigsaw without having the box cover to show you how it should eventually look. So you have to guess to some extent what goes where and just pray that none of the important pieces are missing, which on occasion does prove to be the case, as it is in this particular instance. The first house we'll explore is Arch Hall, County Meath, or at least what remains of it. The place's name appears to derive from a rustic arch lying some distance to the south of the house and serving as a point of access to the original avenue. The arch, as you can see, is composed of a single broad entrance with pinnacle above and flanking buttresses. In design, it's rather reminiscent of another such arch, this one, which was recently restored, found at Gloucester, County Offaly. And, as we'll see, the link between the two could be relevant when considering who might have been the architect of Arch Hall. At Gloucester, the arch is placed on a direct line with the side of the house, whereas here at Arch Hall it's slightly off-axis, as if to offer some unexpected sideways view of the building. Let's now approach the house over what is today a field, but which we know was formerly parkland with trees and shrubs and an ornamental lake. From a distance, Arch Hall looks like a very substantial building, but the impression is slightly deceptive because, despite rising 3 stories over basement, it appears the house was only ever 1 room deep. The most immediately striking feature of the facade is that at either end it concludes in cylindrical bows, and it's centered on a larger 3-bay semicircular bow. This has a handsome stone pedimented Gibbsian doorcase, but the rest of the building was constructed of locally produced red brick. At some unknown date in the 19th century, the exterior was covered in cement render, scored to imitate cut stone. Presumably around the same time, the topmost windows were paired in Romanesque style, and Italianate sills added, while the end bows were capped with conical roofs, presumably in an effort to make the place resemble a French chateau. Unfortunately, almost the entire rear wall of Arch Hall has gone, making it hard to envisage how this side of the house looked, which will be relevant when we turn our attention to the second property. But if we somewhat gingerly venture inside the building, there remains an idea of how it must once have looked. Directly beyond the front door was a large hall with curved ends and reception rooms on either side, each measuring some 18 feet square. These rooms in turn gave access to small circular rooms in the front corners. The rooms here occupy the space provided by the cylindrical bows seen on the exterior. They really are quite a quirky feature, being in effect small, intimate closets, although well lit thanks to large round-headed openings that offer views of the surrounding landscape. These circular rooms have shallow, domed ceilings with plaster coffering and egg and dart moulding. Amazingly, and really rather thrillingly, that on the western flank has survived largely intact, and it helps us to visualize how the other spaces would have been decorated. Arch Hall throws up endless fascinating questions, such as when was it built and who commissioned it in the first place? At the time of its construction, this particular part of the world was owned by the Payne family, so likely they were responsible for erecting the building. In the 19th century, it passed to the Garnets, but we know that in 1821, one John Payne Garnet was in residence, the middle name Payne suggesting perhaps he'd acquired it through marriage from the original Paynes. 21 years later, his son Samuel married Marianne Tandy, and in 1855, she and the couple's 2 sons were painted riding within the grounds of Arch Hall, a picture which gives us our best indication of what the place was like when still intact. When the last of the Garnets died unmarried in the mid-1890s, the property was bought by another family, but seemingly it was then burnt out in 1923 during the Civil War and has been a ruin ever since. There's one very important other question that needs to be answered, namely, who was Arch Hall's architect? The house's design is frequently ascribed to Sir Edward Lovat Pearce, best known today as the architect of what is now the Bank of Ireland, but was originally the Irish Houses of Parliament, begun in 1729 and finished a decade later. Pearce is believed to have been born in the 1690s in County Meath, where Arch Hall stands, and was the son of an English general and an Irish mother. Most importantly for his son's future career, General Pearce's first cousin was Sir John Vanbrugh, responsible for such masterpieces of English Baroque as Blenheim Palace and Castle Howard. It's thought that Vanbrugh had a hand in Pearce's training or his education as an architect, because even though the latter was essentially a classicist, he was capable of the occasional Baroque flourish. You'll remember that the arch from which Arch Hall derives its name bears certain similarities with the recently restored one at Gloucester, County Offaly. The latter, along with the adjacent house, are usually regarded as being the work of Edward Lovat Pearce, not least because he was a first cousin of Gloucester's then owner, Trevor Lloyd. This seems to strengthen the attribution of Arch Hall to Pearce also, who, if he did design the building, would have done so at some date before 1733, the year he died. So, does that mean Pearce was responsible for designing Arch Hall? Are all the pieces of this particular jigsaw now in place? Well, let's wait and see, because in the next episode, I want to show you what might be considered its sibling, which lies some 100 miles away and bears remarkable similarities to Arch Hall. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much for watching The Irish Aesthete. Goodbye.